You might be familiar with the green screen viewport composing workflow by Ian Hubert that has been trending lately. Let me recap really quick before we get any further. Chroma key the footage and export it as EXR sequence with alpha channel. Import the footage to Blender using Mesh Plane function. Adjust the camera position and orientation to match your footage. This doesn't have to be perfect, but it helps to get close. Now, copy the location and rotation of the camera to the footage plane. And this is where the magic happens. Go to the Edit mode and move the geometry with the local Z-axis to fit the camera view. Now you can scale the footage object as you like, but it will stay aligned from the camera view. You can keyframe the object scale to make the actor move in 3D space. The actor will look the same in the camera view, but we can see that its position will be normalized, and the actor is now moving in 3D space. You can even create a new camera and animate it, as long as it stays close enough to the original camera. This is great as it can even work with moving shots. This technique works well if we aren't too worried about what's happening with the actor's legs. But if we take a closer look, we can see that using one plane for both legs can be too limiting. The shadows don't look quite right. If we move the footage closer, the shadows of the legs will look flat. And if we move the footage farther, the shadows look better, but the legs will be cut off. I'll show you a way to make the bottom part of the footage float on the floor and never get cut. This way we get the best of both worlds. If you are familiar with Blender's modifiers, you might know that the shrink-wrap modifier does something similar. But we can't really control where this modifier will be projected from. So let's use Blender's powerful geometry nodes and create our own geometry projection modifier. You can also download this node group from the link below. So, let's create a new geometry nodes group. The node we will be using for this is called Raycast. This node is doing a similar thing as shrink-wrap modifier. We need to tell it what object to use as a target geometry. So let's add an object info node and select our floor to be used as a target geometry. Select Relative. The Raycast node will calculate the new position for our footage, so we need a set position node to move the geometry to the calculated position. So, every vertex that is hit, Blender should move the vertices to the hit position. We can already see it act like a shrink-wrap modifier, but we will need a different direction for every vertex, as the geometry needs to be projected from the camera. We can calculate these vectors to be used as ray direction by subtracting every vertex's location from camera's location. Let's convert the footage plane mesh to points. We can go through every point's location with a sample index node. This node needs to know what value we are interested in, so we are looking at the position data. And let's add the index node here to make it go through all of the vertices one by one. Then we just need to subtract locations of the vertices from the location of the camera. This will give us the direction vectors for all the vertices. Now the effect is done from the perspective of the camera. We can lift up the affected geometry using transform geometry before the Raycast node to make the footage float nicely just above the surface. Now we can see that the shadows can start from the back leg, but the front leg can still be visible floating on the floor. We are no longer limited to using only the lowest part of the footage to be aligned with the floor just to be able to see the full actor. I'm going to use this a lot in the future, so I added the subdivision surface node and connected all the useful sockets to the group input node. Now these values can be accessed from the Modifiers tab with easy custom names. I will mark this as an asset to be used in future projects. Please tell me if this is useful to you, or if you know any better way to do this. You can find the download link in the description.